So I said this week I would do something for you on negative space. Something that some of you hadn't really connected with. You've probably done it, used it, but you just haven't really thought about it. So what is negative space? It's the space around the object. Okay, now this is a little demonstration. It was to demonstrate measuring for a still life, but also to show you how to look. We also touched on it in the level 1, doing the cups. Do you remember the still life with the cups, getting the placements, the measuring and all the rest of it? So what have we got here then? That is working, good. Right, so we've got, it's 3 pairs actually. So we've got the 3 pairs, 1 standing up and 2 lying down, and this is the negative space, because it's the space that is left by the subjects. Okay, that again is the negative space. It's the space that's left around the subject. Okay, let that sink in for a minute. Let me show you some examples of negative space, and I will talk a bit further about it and show you a few ideas. You're all familiar with this, I'm sure. Now, what is it? It's 2 faces looking at each other, or it's a vase. So that's either the negative space, those 2 bits there, or that is. Let me show you something else. 2 stools. And what has happened here, the stools have appeared out of fresh air because the background has been put in. Somebody has drawn, to just tidy that up, the background. So instead of looking at the object, they have looked at the gaps between, the space around. And there are many ways that you can go about this. Here is another example. Let me zoom on, if you will. There we go. Okay, so here, and this one's even more interesting because what's happened here, it's more complicated. And here you can see there's the gap, there's the gap, there's the gap. And this one's fascinating because look, there's the gap. Excuse me. I hope you don't mind if I don't edit that out. And what's happened here is because of the shape of the chair, that the wood has stacked up, the railings have gone one behind each other, so you can't see the gaps through it. Are you with me? Likewise in here, so it's not an awfully good print off. Okay, so you've got these gaps, but because that slat of wood is in front of another slat of wood, you don't see the gap. Okay, so that is your negative space, and it's very helpful when you are trying to work out not only the shape of your subject, but also the placement of it next to another subject. Okay, now I did confuse you just a little bit when we did this the other week, because it's not exactly purely negative space. What we were also doing, so you got 2 lessons for the price of 1 really, was talking about making the white of the paper be your snow. Okay, so what you've done, you did the, let me do it another way for you. Okay, you did the sky and you imagined the shape of the trees. let me just complete this so it makes it a bit easier for you to see what I'm doing. Okay, so you imagined the shape of the trees, all right? But then you said, okay, I'm going to use the white of the paper as my snow. So in a way, you are drawing in, or rather painting in, the negative space below. I mean, that's not strictly true, I know, because it's not space, it's another colour, but it's just a way for you to think and look at things a little better, a little easier and more thoroughly. I won't do all of it, you've seen that before. Okay, so you see, so we've got using the white space here, and we're also looking at the negative space. So what I am going to do is I took a photograph of just an arrangement of jars and a couple of tin cans, just to very simply show you. Okay, so there it is, a jar and a few tins, what have you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the negative space, and to make it clear I'm going to do it on the tracing paper. Okay, and I'm going to in fact use this rule because that object is going off the edge, so I want to see that that in fact goes off the edge, and it comes down there, and it goes along here, whoops, to that tin, and along here to there. And what I want is to, in fact I'm going to go in a bit. Okay, it will become apparent, she said, hopefully. Okay, so what I've done is here is your negative space. Here, where is it? Can't see. Oh. That comes down to that tin. That comes down to that tin. That comes down to there. That goes across there. I can just see the base of that jar, like that, and that one comes down like that. So there we have your negative space. So that is that corner, and that is that corner. Okay, and then you could go on to do whatever you want to do with your subject, but it's just another way of looking at something. There's also a way of working with the negative space. So we've looked at using the white of your paper, we've looked at looking at the negative space. We're now going to look at something else that's going to frighten you to death. So this is negative space again, but what I did here is I put a very pale wash. Let me get another bit of, oh, that bit will do. Excuse me a minute while I just get a piece of paper. So what I did, a very pale wash over everything, and then I did a leaf. Etc, etc, etc. Okay, so I did that leaf, and then I built a layer upon it. I did this outline again, which was like the outline of the shape of the snow, of the sky rather, I did that again and I started to do more layers. So you see it gets darker and darker and darker. So I hope that helps. Don't fret. Do not fret, people. Life is too short to fret. What I suggest you do, just have a think about it. Negative space, it's the space around the subject. So I would suggest for your homework, and I will post this photograph, you do something like that. Because then you are also using, in fact, I tell you what, leave the paper white like you did with your snow. Put an outline of that leaf around like you did with your sky, and then start building up another wash, putting the layers on top and using the negative space. You're painting the holes, not the leaf. Now, I think you all need to go and lie down now and probably had a stiff drink. But I hope that helps. It's not compulsory. This is not compulsory. It's just another way, another tool in your toolbox of painting. So I hope that helps.